Elijah Vera Tucker done for the year. Mekhi Becton goes down but comes back in. If you're Joe Douglas, you got to be a little bit worried right now. I'm Glenn Norton with JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So Joe Douglas, listen, the narrative that he can't find talented offensive linemen, bogus. He can find talented offensive linemen. We see how Joe Tipman is playing. We know that AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker, is a guy who a lot of people view as a Pro Bowl caliber guard and has done a damn good job at tackle. Mekhi Becton, when he's healthy, is a very high level tackle. Here's the problem. Becton's missed 2 full seasons, as we know. Becton finished the game the other day, but he did leave a couple times with that knee bothering him. AVT goes out for the year, second year in a row that he's going to miss more games than he will play due to injury. Two different injuries, completely unrelated. Now you have to worry about his durability. Is he a guy we can rely on moving forward? Is Mekhi Becton, how many years do you have to see out of Mekhi Becton before you're no longer worried about his injuries? To me, when a guy misses 2 full years, you've got to see a couple seasons out of him without missing significant time before you're willing to say, let's commit to this guy long term. Becton's 50-year option wasn't picked up, so the Jets would have to maybe tag him if he plays at a very high level to get one more year to look at him and then consider a long-term deal. But as you're seeing him on the turf, and listen, if you've been listening to me following this show for the last few years, I'm a very big Mekhi Becton guy. Loved the pick. Talked about him pre-draft. Loved when they made the pick. He played great as a rookie. I've said many times over that I think that he will come back and bounce back and play well, and he has. But as you see him lying on the turf, minutes after AVT goes out, you start wondering, is Joe Douglas thinking to himself, I don't have a guy who I can count on to play tackle next year? I mean, I know we're still in 2023, but as a GM, you've got to be always thinking a little bit ahead, right? It's not like Joe Douglas is game planning and getting ahead of himself in terms of opponents. Joe Douglas is looking at his roster and knowing what he's got to do to keep this team competitive. You're getting Aaron Rodgers back next year, presumably, if the football gods will allow it. And you might not have a tackle that you feel like you can plug in and he'll give you a season and he'll play well. Even Carter Warren, the kid out of Pitt who I liked, and I said that, I said preseason we'd probably see him this year because someone's bound to get dinged up at some point, and I think he can be a player. He played both sides of the line at Pitt, right and left tackle, so he's got that ability, and we may see him. Robert Saleh talked about how he now they have to expect Carter Warren to sort of accelerate his development. He's a guy who didn't have a training camp, only played a few snaps in preseason, and then he goes on pup. And that's after missing what I believe he missed 9 games at Pitt last year. So you've got a bunch of really talented guys who have proven above anything else that they have a hard time staying on the field. And again, I credit Becton for coming back, but when you hear Robert Saleh say, give Mekhi credit for playing through all that pain, and you recall that Becton said it during the preseason, playing with pain is something I'm just going to have to get used to. If you're Joe Douglas, again, you have to wonder how much pain is he in? How much worse is it going to get? And how much longer can he play through it? Is this something that after a couple of years, Mekhi Becton, even at his lower weight at 340, if he gets down to 330, that's a lot of person to be walking around on a bad knee. So if I'm the Jets and I'm Joe Douglas, I'm looking at next year and saying, right now, I've got Max Mitchell and Carter Warren. That's it. You'll have AVT trying to work his way back. He'll miss part of the season, guaranteed. And then you'll have Mekhi Becton, hopefully, who will have hopefully played, minimum 15 games this year. Like I said, miss a game or two, teams live with it. That's being the NFL. That's not the end of the world. But when you're missing chunks of 7, 8, 9, 10 games, or in the case of Mekhi Becton, 2 chunks, 2 full seasons, you get to a point where you're a good player and you're going to stay on a roster if you can stay healthy. But keeping a guy as part of your long term plan, if you're Joe Douglas, I just don't see it. So Joe Douglas, don't tell me he can't find talented players. He's done that. He's just not finding guys who can stay healthy. And so, does he take another swing with another first round pick with another offensive lineman? And let's not forget Cam Clark. The guy never saw the field. When he was picked, I remember it well because I was a big Cam Clark guy pre draft. I think it was Kuiper, may have been whoever it was on whichever channel I was watching when the pick was made. This is a great pick. This guy's going to be a starting guard by next year. There were some high expectations for Cam Clark, and if you watched him in college, you'd understand why. He never gets on the field, career-ending injury. So you draft a guy in Clark who's projected as a starter. You lose him forever. You get Becton and AVT on the field. They both show that they can play at an elite level, but they can't stay on the field. So Joe Douglas is going to have to fix this. It's not it's not an enviable position to be in. As I said the other day, there are some other things he's also got to fix. Like, what do you are you going to continue to allow Carl Lawson, Cole Hardman, and Dalvin Cook to occupy roster spots? Not to run through the whole thing again because I did discuss it a couple days ago, but it's wild to see. I mean, Dalvin Cook is a guy you can save 5 million, $4 or $5 million against the cap next year by cutting him now. He's a sub 3 yard per carry guy. He's got nothing left. Carl Lawson, the only reason you might be able to get something for him is because team pass rushers are at a premium. And by reworking his deal last year, you've brought his salary down a little bit if the Jets pick up the bonus. I haven't looked at how much the bonus would be, but the Jets would end up picking up some of that money. You might get a 7 for him, maybe conditional 6, something like that. And Mecole Hardman, like the Jets must be looking at themselves thinking, why did we sign this guy? I know Robert Saleh can sit there and say, oh, well, this week it was because we wanted Irv Charles to get on specials. Fine. What about the week before that? And the week before that? And the week before that? And the week like he's either inactive or he's active but doesn't get on the field. And you're paying him $3 million. So and look, I'm not one of these guys who just, willy-nilly comes out and says, cut this guy, cut that guy. I understand these are people, they're human beings, these are their jobs. They're not horrible people, but you're in a job where the employer doesn't have a need for you, or at least they're treating you as if they don't need you. So if you don't need the guy, let him go find a place that does need him and free up a roster spot for a guy that you do need or you do like or who will be active and can contribute. Because right now you got some dead weight on this roster taking up some millions of dollars that some of it is unavoidable because of the guaranteed piece. But there are some guys you can let go and save a couple million that maybe you'll be spending next year on more offensive linemen. Check us out Wednesday night, tomorrow night, live. Myself, Chris Schubert, 6:30 on YouTube. We'll be check the link on Twitter. Give us a follow at Jet Nation. Give me a follow at JN Radio_Glenn. That'll do it for this one. Joe Douglas, man, what a not a great spot to be in. Have a good one, Jets fans.